3 months ago, I got a message from a guy in Burbank. He said he'd sold his condo, 2 bedroom, 1 bath, no yard, for just under $700,000. And with that money, he moved to an Arizona town most Californians couldn't find on a map, bought a 3 bedroom house on half an acre, paid cash, and had $400,000 left over. He just wanted me to know. I want you to know too, because what he did isn't a fluke. There's a pattern here, and it's happening faster than anyone's talking about. 10 Arizona towns. Some are scrappy and forgotten. Some have histories so strange they sound made up. One of them, the one I'm putting at number 1, you literally cannot buy a house there. The mine owns it, all of it. If that sentence just made you lean forward a little, do me a favor and subscribe. Number 10. Wickenburg. Wickenburg is the most already discovered town on this list, and I'm putting it here at number 10 because of that. But discovered doesn't mean saturated. There's a reason it opens the countdown. The median home price here sits around $545,000, which sounds like a lot until you realize a comparable house in suburban Los Angeles clears $900,000 without breaking a sweat. About 1/3 of all buyers at Wickenburg Ranch, the big resort-style development on the edge of town, come directly from California. 1/3. That's not a trickle. That's a pipeline. Henry Wickenburg found gold here in 1863. The Vulture Mine Strike, one of the richest in Arizona history. The town that grew around it was rough-edged and real. Cattle drives, dust, men who carried what they owned. Then somehow, it reinvented itself as the dude ranch capital of America. At its peak, it had 14 dude ranches. Now it has 2. Wealthy Easterners used to come out here to play cowboy for a weekend. Now Californians come to actually stay. Here's the detail that stuck with me. Before a company called Trilogy bought and developed Wickenburg Ranch into the retirement community it is today, that land was a dude ranch owned by Merv Griffin, the man who created Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy. He died in 2007, and within a few years, his ranch became the place where people cash out their California equity and ride into the sunset. Literally. There's something poetic about that, or maybe just inevitable. The average age of a Wickenburg resident is 61. Wide streets, Spanish colonial storefronts, saguaro-covered hillsides baking in yellow afternoon light. This is the Arizona you picture before you've actually been to Arizona, and it's already moving fast. Number 9. Williams. Williams, Arizona sits at 6,700 feet in the Ponderosa Pines of northern Coconino County, and the first thing that hits you when you drive in, especially if you're coming up from Phoenix, is that it does not look like what you expect Arizona to look like. There are pine trees. There's actual snow in winter. The sky is a different shade of blue up there. Now here's the thing. Williams was the last city on historic Route 66 to be bypassed by Interstate 40. That happened in 1984. And when I say bypassed, I mean the economic oxygen got cut off practically overnight. Businesses that had served Route 66 traffic for 50 years went dark. The main street started to empty out. But Williams had something most bypassed towns didn't. It's also the southern terminus of the Grand Canyon Railway, which means every year, people who want to get to one of the 7 wonders of the natural world pass through here. That's not a small thing. What I find genuinely wild is that the median home value in Williams in 2024 was around $499,000, compared to an estimated $97,700 back in 2000. That's over 400% appreciation in 24 years. And yet prices are still far below what you'd pay for a comparable mountain property. In California, remote workers and second home buyers have started moving in. Vacation rental investors are here too. Wait. Let me back up to 1984 for a second. When I-40 finally bypassed Williams, the town actually held a mock funeral procession down Route 66, complete with a coffin. Bobby Troop, the man who wrote Get Your Kicks on Route 66, showed up to eulogize the road. A town that held its own funeral is now selling homes to people fleeing California. That's a comeback story with a very strange first act. Number 8. Clarkdale, before Irvine was master planned, before the woodlands in Texas, before every sprawling California suburb was carefully drawn up on a developer's drafting table. Arizona did it first. Clarkdale was founded in 1912, and is documented as the first master-planned community in the state of Arizona. That's not marketing. That's a historical record. William A. Clark, copper magnate, U.S. Senator, the kind of man who had a mountain of money and used it accordingly, built this town from scratch to houseworkers for his copper smelter in nearby Jerome. And when he built it, he did not build cheap. Telephone lines, telegraph, electricity, sewage, spring water, everything modern for 1912. The smelter ran for 4 decades, and then in 1953 it closed. The town got bought and sold a few times. It drifted. And then slowly, the Verde Valley started happening around it. Sedona's overflow, the tourism economy, people who wanted red rock views without Sedona prices. Population change since 2000, up 44.7%. The median home value went from $111,000 in 2000 to roughly $395,000 in 2024. Those numbers tell you something is pulling people here. The old Park Hotel, where copper smelter workers used to sleep in rotating shifts, 2 men to a bed, because one was always on the clock, is now the Smelter Town Brewery. They serve craft beer inside 100-year-old walls. The same building, different world entirely. Honestly, I don't know whether to find that beautiful or a little uncomfortable. Both, maybe. Clarkdale looks like Sedona's overlooked little sibling. Red rock canyon walls visible from nearly every street, the Verde River threading through the valley floor below, Spanish colonial architecture in warm adobe tones. The people moving in are coming from California, Washington, Illinois. They all seem to have discovered it in the same 18-month window. Number 7, Globe. Globe, Arizona, Gila County, about 90 minutes east of Phoenix, was named after a chunk of silver ore that early prospectors found in 1875, a spherical rock with what looked like continents etched into it. They thought it looked like a globe. That's the kind of detail that's too specific to be made up. The silver ran out fast. Copper came next, and by the early 1900s, Globe was a boomtown of 7,000 people. Saloons, a Chinese quarter, brick storefronts on Broad Street that still stand today. Then the copper price collapses hit. Multiple times. 1920s, 1970s, 1980s. Each one bled a little more of the population out until Globe became what it is now. A small city of about 500 people that has mostly stopped talking about what it used to be. Here's what it actually is today. One of the last places in Arizona where you can buy a real house with a yard for what Californians spend on a used car. Homes that need work go for $40,000 to $80,000. Updated homes go for $100,000 to $390,000. In a state where the average home value is near $420,000, those numbers are almost disorienting. The old Gila County Courthouse from 1906, a building that sat half forgotten for decades while the town tried to figure out what it was for, has been converted into the Cobre Valley Center for the Arts. The building that once jailed the West now hosts painting classes. I keep coming back to that image. Something about it feels like a summary of everything happening in these small towns right now. Remote workers have found Globe. The 90-minute drive to the East Valley makes it viable for hybrid schedules. They're buying the miners' cottages. The transformation is just getting started. Number 6, Tombstone. Let me give you one sentence that should stop you cold. Tombstone, Arizona, which draws hundreds of thousands of tourists every single year, has a median home price that is currently going down. March 2026, median sale price, $225,000, down 18.2% from the year before, down in Arizona, while California hasn't moved in a direction that helps anyone who actually lives there. Tombstone was founded in 1879 by Ed Schieffelin, a prospector who was told, by soldiers who presumably did not want him getting killed on their watch, that the only thing he'd find in Apache territory was his tombstone. So when he found silver, he named it that. 10,000 people flooded in. It became the most dangerous and profitable silver boom town in the American Southwest. The OK Corral gunfight happened on October 26, 1881. A 30-second shootout that has generated more tourism revenue than the silver mines ever did. Then in 1886, the mines flooded. The pumps couldn't keep up. The population collapsed almost overnight. In the 1930s, it nearly ceased to exist entirely. The population fell below 500 people. The Arizona legislature actually voted to dissolve the town. A handful of residents refused. They kept the municipal structure alive through sheer obstinance, and eventually the town's own deadness became its product. They started calling it the town too tough to die. The morbidity was the business model. There are 38 cheap homes currently for sale in Tombstone, starting at $9,800 for a vacant lot. Someone could sell a studio apartment in Silver Lake, buy a house here, and still have $200,000 left over. With just 5 residents per square mile, Tombstone is less crowded than 98. 1% of all U.S. neighborhoods. The people moving in aren't cowboys, they're retirees, remote workers, white-collar professionals who want a screened porch, and enough silence to hear themselves think. Quick thing before we keep going. The next 5 towns are legitimately stranger than everything you've heard so far. There's a town where you can buy a home on the actual Route 66 for under $100,000. There's a town where residents are allergic to Wi-Fi. And then there's number 1, which I'm still not going to tell you about yet, but the phrase, "the company owns everything," should give you some idea. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. This list goes places most channels won't touch. Number 5, Mayer. Mayer, Arizona is an unincorporated community in the foothills of the Bradshaw Mountains, sitting at 415 feet along something called Big Bug Creek. That name, Big Bug Creek, tells you most of what you need to know about the vibe. This is not a place trying to sell you anything. Joseph Mayer and his wife bought the Big Bug stage station, a stop on the Black Canyon stage line between Prescott and Phoenix in 1882 for $2,200 in gold. That was the whole transaction. The town grew as a way stop and mining supply depot. 3 of its buildings are on the National Register of Historic Places. The mines eventually went bust, the railroad pulled out, and Mayer settled into its permanent role as a quiet in-between place on the road to somewhere else. In September 2025, the median home price in Mayer was $304,000, down 33.1% from the year before. Raw land parcels in the zip code have sold for as low as $22,500. The poverty rate here is 24.3%, which is worth saying out loud, because not everyone in these towns is a Californian with equity. Some of them are just people who stayed. A family from California who moved to Spring Valley, right next to Mayer, described it this way: 20 minutes to my job in Prescott Valley, real 4-season weather, and a backyard with juniper and pine instead of gravel. That's it. That's the whole pitch, and it doesn't need anything added. Near the edge of town, there's a century-old smokestack, built for a smelting operation that never really got going. It never served its purpose. For 100 years, it's just stood there, pointing at the sky, being a landmark for travelers who need to know civilization is close. A smokestack built for a boom that never came, now a navigation marker for Californians driving up from Phoenix to look at land. That detail doesn't need a metaphor. It is the metaphor. Number 4, Seligman. In September 1978, Interstate 40 bypassed Seligman, Arizona. And that was basically it. The town that had been a railroad division point since the 1880s, that had thrived again on Route 66 traffic after World War II, overnight, the cars stopped coming. Businesses shuttered. People left. The whole machinery of the place just stopped. What happened next is one of the stranger redemption stories in small-town America, and it starts with a barber. Angel Delgadillo had a shop on Route 66. He watched his town go quiet year by year after the bypass, and in 1987, he called a meeting at the Copper Cart restaurant and talked the town into fighting back. Not by trying to get the highway rerouted, not by begging the state for money. He convinced them to designate Route 66 as a historic highway, to lean into what they already were, rather than trying to become something else. That meeting became the Historic Route 66 Association of Arizona. It worked. Seligman is now the designated birthplace of Historic Route 66. And this is the part that still gets me. That barber's shop, his actual barber shop, is the inspiration for one of the characters in the Pixar movie Cars. The entire Radiator Springs storyline, the town bypassed by the interstate, the locals trying to hold on, that's Seligman. Angel Delgadillo is now in his 90s and still lives here. Almost nobody outside of Arizona knows his name. The median home price in Seligman in 2025 was $158,497, the lowest of any community in the corridor. You can currently buy a 1949 cinder block house on the actual Route 66 for under $100,000. Off-grid parcels in the Juniper Mountains surrounding town go for $35,000 to $100 for 36 acres. Homesteaders have started finding it. The silence here, by all accounts, is absolute. Number 3. Winslow. I want you to picture something. Every day, not on weekends, not in summer, every single day, tourists from Germany, Japan, Australia, Brazil, and about 40 other countries drive to a faded railroad town in northern Arizona to stand on a street corner and take a photograph. Not because of something historic, not because of some natural wonder, because of 4 lines in an Eagles song recorded in 1972. Well, I'm standing on a corner in Winslow, Arizona. That's the line. That's the whole reason. There's a mural, there's a life-size statue of Glenn Frey, and every day people stand in front of it. Glenn Frey's gone. The railroad economy is mostly gone. The Route 66 traffic that once ran through this town is gone. But the corner remains. And here's the wild thing. That corner is now Winslow's entire tourism industry. Allergic became infrastructure. Winslow was founded in 1882 as a railroad division point, the same Atlantic and Pacific line that built Seligman. It was once one of the most important rail towns in northern Arizona. Peak population somewhere around 10 to 12,000, a genuine hub. The I-40 bypass in 1979 started the long slide. Today, the median sale price for a single-family home in Winslow is about $221. $500, roughly half the Arizona statewide median. Freight trains still run through at all hours. You can hear them from most houses in town. That sounds into the economy. It just doesn't stop to spend money anymore. Now here's the part that changes this town's math entirely. A 500-acre industrial zone on the south side of Winslow was approved in December 2024. That's not rumor. That's a zoning record. The cheap prices here may have an expiration date, and the people who know that are already moving. Number 2, Snowflake. The name is not what you think. Snowflake, Arizona was not named after the weather. It's a portmanteau, the last names of 2 Mormon pioneers who founded it in 1878, Erastus Snow and William Jordan Flake. That's it. 2 men's names stitched together into something that sounds like a forecast. Brigham Young sent these men to Arizona Territory in 1877 with a specific instruction to William Flake. Sell everything you can't carry. Take your family and go, with nothing to come back to. They came. They built a farming community on the Colorado Plateau. Wheat, cattle, Silver Creek. No mine, no railroad boom, no single economic event to implode. That agricultural stability is why Snowflake never really collapsed. It just persisted quietly for 140 years while the world changed around it. Here's where it gets strange. Since 1988, the area east of Snowflake has become a destination for people with multiple chemical sensitivity and electromagnetic hypersensitivity. Serious, documented conditions where the body reacts to chemicals, synthetic materials, even Wi-Fi signals. About 36 families have built homes there from scratch, additive-free concrete, ceramic tile, steel, glass, no plywood, no synthetics, no microwave ovens. The state of Arizona actually built 4 small rental homes suitable for low-income people with environmental illness. That's not a fringe detail. That's a state government acknowledging that this community exists. And then there's this. Snowflake is the hometown of Travis Walton, the man who in 1975 claimed to have been abducted by a UFO in the White Mountains. He was missing for 5 days. His crew reported it. The case became one of the most investigated UFO incidents in American history, and eventually the film Fire in the Sky. A UFO abductee, a colony of people allergic to the modern world, an LDS temple on a hill visible for miles, a Walmart, a golf course, and a median home price of around $385,000. Snowflake is the quietly surreal place in Arizona, and it doesn't even try to be. Number 1, Baghdad. And here we are. Number 1, I need you to understand something before I describe this place. You cannot buy a house in Baghdad. Arizona. Not because nothing is for sale, not because the market is too competitive, not because prices are too high. You cannot buy a house here because the mine owns them, all of them. Every single house in Baghdad, Arizona is owned by Freeport-McMoRan, one of the largest copper mining corporations on Earth. The company owns the houses, the businesses, most of the land the town sits on. You live there because the company employs you. You leave when you're done. Baghdad is one of only two remaining company towns in the United States of America. In 2026, the first copper claims here were staked in 1882. The name either came from a romanticized association with Baghdad as a symbol of wealth, or, and this is the version locals prefer, from a miner's son who would shout, Baghdad, when an ore sack was full. Nobody can verify it. The town officially appeared on the 1930 U.S. Census. A $240 million expansion in 1973 added nearly 400 new housing units, new hall equipment, new everything. The company that built it then became the company that is there now, wearing a different name. Mining at Baghdad runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Haul trucks the size of houses move in slow, constant loops. Copper concentrate gets loaded and driven out to southern Arizona or to the railhead at Hillside. The Baghdad mine holds an estimated 873, 6 million tons of ore, enough to keep this operation going for generations. This is not a dying town. This is a town that has no reason to ever stop being what it is. The median age of Baghdad residents is 23.6 years old, not a typo. 23.6. This is a young town. Young families, young workers, people who came for the job and are building a life in company housing on company land under a company sky. It is the American frontier, compressed into 8 square miles and owned outright by a publicly traded corporation. From the air, the mine pit looks like the Earth tried to unbis itself and forgot how to close back up. Neat rows of company houses sit just outside the crater's shadow. The whole town exists to serve the whole. You can't buy here. Californians can't get in. And I've been thinking about this for a while. Maybe that's actually the point. Every place on this list is being discovered, reshaped, repriced. Wickenburg is already a destination. Winslow's industrial zone just got approved. Clarkdale's prices have tripled since 2000. Even Seligman's fixer-uppers are starting to move. But Baghdad? Baghdad is the one Arizona town the market will never touch. Because the market doesn't get a seat at the table. The company sits there instead. That's either the last honest town in America, or the strangest warning about what ownership actually means. Probably both. 10 towns. One of them you can't buy into at any price. A few of them are already moving faster than this video can keep up with. And at least one of them, I'll let you decide which, made you think about something that has nothing to do with real estate. If any of these places landed for you, dropped a feeling in your chest, made you want to open a map, or just made you a little sad in the way that old places sometimes do, drop the town name in the comments. I genuinely want to know which one hit hardest. That information actually shapes what I make next. Share this with whoever you know who's always talking about getting out, getting somewhere quieter, somewhere with a little more sky. They'll either thank you or start making plans. And honestly, either outcome is fine. The subscribe button is right there. You know what it does.